Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm the Ringmaster Cell, live from Las Vegas in the MTV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those massive and gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes, best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever had as well. Check them out at uppercutchops.com. That's uppercutchops.com. Or give them a call to find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for uppercutchops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. In select markets, of course, everybody watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent affiliates. Of course, in select markets, thanks for joining us, as well as on Hotel TV where applicable, and Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, a fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, restaurants, recipes. Make some friends, have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Now, in case you don't know, a lot of people don't know, don't feel bad. How in the world, it's a very complicated process, but how in the world does the Major League Baseball draft actually work? I mean, there's a whole bunch of layers to this. There's a whole bunch of exceptions and rules, and it's kind of like thinking about the NBA and free agency and draft picks and salary cap and all this other stuff. It's just as confusing, maybe even a little bit more confusing. So as your co-pilot, I'm here to tell you that the Major League Baseball draft, of course, is an annual event where teams select amateur players in a structured order to build their roster, as you know, just like any other sport, with eligibility rounds and so forth, and compensation picks designed to maintain some kind of competitive balance. I do like that. Now, the MLB draft itself, officially called the Rule 4 draft, or first-year player draft, is the primary method for Major League Baseball teams to acquire those young amateur players from high schools, colleges, maybe other amateur baseball programs as well. So unlike other major sports and draft, it is a very large-scale operation, currently lasting 20 rounds, with over 600 selections plus compensation picks and competitive balance picks. So it really allows for teams to stockpile talent for their minor league system, as most players spend several years developing before reaching the major leagues. And I'll talk to you a little bit about the agent side of it. So if in case you're thinking about being an agent for Major League Baseball, guess what? Great news. There are no real qualifications except for one kind of small but enormous qualification. To be a scout for Major League Baseball, or not a scout, to be an agent for Major League Baseball, you actually have to have somebody that is on one of the 40-man rosters in Major League Baseball currently. So in other words, you'd have had to forge a long-term relationship with somebody somehow, some way, somewhere in order to be considered a viable agent. Now, if you don't have anybody on one of the big league rosters, well, guess what? You're not a Major League Baseball agent. Real simple. In the NFL, you could take a course and so forth. In the NBA, you can take a course. National Hockey League, much the same thing. But in baseball, you don't have to take the courses. You just have to put in the grunt work. That's not what this is about. We're going back to the draft, just in case you're thinking, well, geez, maybe I can be a draft because I can be an agent because there's so many players. Not so fast. Nonetheless, we think about the eligibility for these draft candidates. So high school graduates, of course, from the U.S., Canada, and U.S. territories who are at least 17 years of age. Also, college players who have completed their junior or senior year or are at least 21 years of age. So no one and done rule in there. No. Junior, senior year must be completed. Basketball's got that blasted one and done rule, which is awful. The junior college players, they can be drafted at any time. So you see a lot of kids go to the JUCO route. Now also, there are amateur players from other leagues who meet Major League Baseball criteria. Now, what in the world does that mean? I mean, look, there is a whole set of rules, but this is according to baseballbiographies.com. How does baseball draft work? This is according to them. They say the baseball draft is a critical event, just like I had said before. All right, Major League Draft, also known as first year draft. Okay, understanding the mechanics of the Major League Draft help fans appreciate the strategies behind team building. Each year, clubs have the opportunity to scout and select potential stars who could shape the future of the franchise, as I mentioned. Now, the draft not only emphasizes athletic skills, but also represents significant financial investment for teams, so clubs must balance their desire to acquire top prospects with their budgetary constraints, which adds another layer of nonsense and complexity. So the draft structures outline how players enter the Major League Baseball draft in the first place into the league itself. Now, it includes an eligibility set of criteria, how teams receive draft picks, and the process used to determine the draft order. Understanding those items, well, maybe now you kind of get how the new talent's brought into the league. Now, eligibility and entry. To be eligible for the draft, players must be at least amateur athletes, at least high school level. As I said, this for the Rule 4 draft, as I mentioned. But high school players typically enter the draft directly after graduation, while college players have the option to return for additional seasons if they're not selected. Now, that's kind of cool, because just because you're drafted doesn't mean that you have to just stop everything. Now, back in the day when I was playing, we had the clock, right? So if you had started school in year X, and when you get to year, let's just say year 1, and then year 5 is the final year, your 4 years of eligibility is done, guess what? That's all you got. And if you were drafted anywhere in between, guess what? That's all you had, because you could not go right back to it. But things have changed a little bit since rabbit ears were on TVs. Now, the draft order, of course, you've got lottery and whatnot. Everybody knows about that. And then, of course, teams lose qualifying free agents. They may receive a compensation pick. So those picks can provide teams with a chance to acquire new talent, even if they aren't picking in the top slots. And the system, of course, is aimed for some kind of balance. And the lottery itself is used to prevent teams from intentionally tanking, right? We've heard about that over and over. And of course, the lottery only applies to the top picks. So there is a competitive opportunity of chance. So competitive balance picks are additional selections granted to teams in smaller markets or those that spend less time on their roster. So those picks occur between certain rounds to help level playing the field. So allowing underfunded teams to draft talented players is another big issue. So when you think of the draft implications and outcomes, look, you never know what the hell's going to happen. And understanding all of that is just a fraction of the chaos of the Major League Baseball draft, but it is relatively balanced. And then, of course, you have signing bonuses and contracts, and that's a whole nother discussion. But those, of course, are a significant part of the draft process, and they do determine a little bit how attractive the players may be for contracts. So Major League Baseball teams have a designated bonus pool, which refers to the total amount they can spend on bonuses without penalties, kind of like a cap of sorts. And those bonus reward players for joining the organizations and can vary widely based on draft position. So players selected early in the draft typically receive higher bonuses, just like in the NBA and whatnot. And in the NFL too, top 10 is top 10. So, for instance, the first overall pick may secure a bonus well into the millions, while later, and those other picks down the trough a little bit, get progressively less as you move down. So the financial incentive, of course, is crucial as it can influence a player's decision to sign a contract or pursue college baseball instead. So after the draft, once signed, players transition into the minor leagues, as you're aware of, where they, of course, begin their development. But minor league players receive guidance and training to improve their skills, right? They've got to sharpen their skills and they've got to get the reps and they got to get better. And that's just what happens. And unlike the NBA, where they just go essentially right from 1 year of college right into the pros, which to me, it makes the NBA remarkably unattractive. So the impact of the draft is something that is a really big deal because look, if you're in a good, let's say you get drafted by a good squad, and I'm going to give you a good one, the Minnesota Twins. Minnesota Twins have a very, very good farm system historically, as do the Athletics, as do the White Sox, and even the Yankees, but they sell their players off, then they buy them back and they're successful at the next level historically. But if you're in a good system, then you're getting incentivized to stick around in the system. Tell you what, we come back from break, we're going to go ahead and continue on with this. This is a pretty good discussion. Not too many organizations or shows or whatnot talk about it, but we do here on the circus. We're a circus, we prove it every day. Back here in a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average and best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Fire breathers Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you and brought by your friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. Let's round of applause for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Here's the Kung Fu applause. Hey, listen, folks, it's live. I need to make it happen. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on all of our TV and radio affiliates, including our friends waking up with us over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. And that is 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, right there in the greater Atlanta market, right down the road. 7 p.m. Monday through Friday between Columbus, Georgia and Montgomery, Alabama, with that antenna right there out of Auburn, Alabama. War Eagle, our friends on WAUD, that's home of the Atlanta Braves. Up and down the Midwest, out to our friends driving between sunny Southern California and right here in Las Vegas, listening in on 94.9 FM and 96.9 FM, KNAC, Pure Rock. Thanks for joining us over there. And, of course, all the way out to Honolulu, our friends, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA, that's in Honolulu. That is home of the 49ers, the Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And plus, all of our other affiliates, thanks for joining us. We distribute to 219 stations across the country, and they're played at different times, different markets, different, I guess just, wow. It's just different everything, if you know what I mean. But anyway, check us out all over the place. And, of course, you might be able to watch us on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild Charter, CBS, NBC Digital, and independent television affiliates in local markets. Pick your favorite market, as well as on Hotel TV. And everybody's streaming on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeart, Stitcher, Deezer, Libsyn, plus a whole bunch of others. Thanks for joining us there. And also on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Make sure you check out Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. All right, back to the draft, the Major League Baseball draft and the impacts on teams. I mean, look, it's a big deal. If you're not drafting right, and let's face it, if the wrong pick, we think of system. If you don't have the right match for the system, like anything else, you may pick the best athlete, but it may not be the best fit. And as far as the athlete goes, let's face it, let's just say you're an athlete and you get drafted into a system that does not develop players historically well, there is a probability that you may not develop very well, and you may be served in a better system, so you may want to stay in college or go to an alternative league until there's another draft, kind of take her from there, because let's face it, you can get drafted more than once, folks. That's the one thing about baseball, and baseball is really robust when it comes to that. But you think about the ability for teams to trade draft picks. Now, this is where it gets a little bit crazy. You think about those competitive balance picks, and there's a whole nother layer of strategy. Look, teams may strategically view the draft as a method of not just for acquiring talent, but also for enhancing their roster through trades. So they may pick certain players only because they want to trade them. So it's the old sign and trade kind of idea, right? Draft and trade idea. So effective drafting also contributes to maintaining a substantial team by developing homegrown talent rather than solely relying on free agency, which some teams happen to do. So, I mean, it's one of those things. If you really want to walk the same grounds where baseball legends made history, I mean, look, go to Cooperstown and go check that out. I mean, folks, if you don't know what it's like to go to Cooperstown, I would highly recommend it because it is one of those enlightening experiences. It really is. So I want to get back to the draft eligibility. Remember, high school graduates, you got to be at least 17. College players who have completed their junior and senior years, or at least 21 years of age. Now, that is kind of a strange thing because what about the high school graduates that just don't want to go to college? If you're 17 and you're good enough, you could be drafted. And maybe if you're not good enough, or maybe you get drafted, you want to go to college and you want to go learn something. So you're going to have to at least put in 3 years in college. That's kind of a cool system. JUCO players, they can basically get drafted anytime, right, from the junior college system. And the draft orders themselves, right, we have a lottery, like I mentioned. And the draft rounds, well, guess what? There's 20 rounds at this point. Yes, there's special drafts. There's a Rule 5, because we're talking about Rule 4. Now here is Rule 5. It's held annually to prevent teams from hoarding minor league talent, and players not on a team's 40-man roster can be drafted by another team, but must remain on the major league roster for the entire season. That's right. So, hey, listen, there are some crazy rules here. There's a lot of things for you to know as the fan, and so that's why it gets exciting. How about that one? It gets very exciting. All right. So let's think about the idea of these draft picks, right? You have a mock draft, and the whole mock draft idea is to give people an idea of what they should know, what they could get to know about these particular players themselves. But before we do that, we're going to give them all a round of applause before we start breaking them down. Okay, now that you know that. And so this mock draft idea, we have the top 10, which are really important. Of course, Chicago White Sox get to pick first because they have really been a bad team for the last couple of years. However, things have turned around. The players are starting to show up. The White Sox are likely, according to several mock drafts sitting out there, several of them, they say, well, we need more depth. So let's go to top 10 MLB prospects. Let's do this one. You can do this along with me. Top 10 MLB prospects. Go to your favorite search engine that rhymes with noodle. All right. And so what we'll do is we'll just put 2026 draft, right? This way you and I are doing the same exact thing. Now, as we look at the 2026 MLB mock draft, let's go best players. Let's redo this. MLB best draft players. How's that? Amateur draft. Okay. So there is a little confusion between number 1, number 2, and it depends on whatever source you're looking at. The White Sox right now are slated from every angle to pick Grady Emerson, who is a shortstop. And now, first and second, depending on whichever poll you're looking at, two shortstops are the number 1 pick and the number 2 pick as projected. Now, the consensus has Grady Emerson out of Fort Worth Christian High School in Texas. This guy is 18 and a half years of age, 6'3", 185. The second place, or it's almost a dead heat, but we'll just say there is another prospect, another shortstop at UCLA, and he is 21 years of age. So this guy's got 3 years of age on him, and he's 6'2", 205, and Grady Emerson is 6'3", 185. Grady Emerson is a left-handed bat, but he throws right-handed. Rich Chalowski is a right-handed bat and throws right. So you got a lefty-righty combination here on Grady Emerson, because that very, very desirable left-handed bat is what Grady Emerson brings to the table. Now, Emerson's a high school student. He's a shortstop with elite skills. That's right, huge upside, projected to go, of course, near the top of the draft. And he is noted for his wild athleticism, hitting ability, and potential development into a real live superstar. Now, when you look at Rock Chalowski, right-handed bat, throws right. Chalowski is considered the most complete prospect in the draft class, excelling both offensively and defensively. Posted a slash line 353, 408, 710 with 23 homers, and as a shortstop. And he is praised for his bat speed, power, and defensive range across the diamond, making him the likely first-round pick. However, MajorLeagueBaseball.com and a lot of others, even Bleacher Report, have Grady Emerson going ahead of him. Now, I'm not so sure it's the 3-year age difference. You've got basically somebody who's ready to play big league ball in Chalowski, but Emerson can be tuned to something else, a different player, maybe added into a position. Now, you think of the White Sox right now, because they have the number 1 pick, with Colson Montgomery playing short. Does Montgomery move to a different position? Because you've got Miguel Vargas at third, and you've got Chase Mydroth at second. So where are you going to put either one of these shortstops? Do you move Colson Montgomery maybe to first base? Well, if you move him to first, what are you going to do with your first baseman? Maybe that's the play. That's the only thing that makes sense as I see it, and I'm not even sure that makes sense in the grand scheme of things. I'm going to have to take a look at this when we're on break, because I watch the White Sox every game they play, and the left side of their infield is set unless you're going to move Montgomery. And Montgomery was the guy anyway. He was the big he was the big system guy, and he's come up and he's absolutely produced. So would you put him out in left field? I don't know. Anyway, back here in a few minutes on the Circus, we're going to take a look at that. Don't go anywhere.
I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMTV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. If you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. Got to tell you, folks, best I've ever had as far as an Italian beef sandwich. They are the creators. 120 years ago, they put it together. They opened their first restaurant in 1938. They're still serving up great food right now. That's Al's #1 Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Can't make it over there for some great food? Guess what? They'll send it to you. FedEx, overnight, and boy, is it good. Everything is fresh, never frozen. Tell them Ringmaster Sal sent you for some great food. All right, welcome back to everybody on radio and TV. Big thanks for joining us here on the Sports Circus. And I left off talking about the #1 pick in Major League Baseball's 2026 draft. And there's a couple of players, they're very similar, but at the same time, they're not. And what's interesting is you've got a couple of shortstops. One's 21, the other one is 18. The 18-year-old, still a high school student, but he has the ability to be what? Molded into what they're looking for as far as potentially the first team picking, which is the White Sox, because they've been terrible. So is it Rock Chalowski out of UCLA, 21-year-old, 6'2", 202? The guy can hit. The guy, he's good defensively. He's got a good glove, good offense. He does it all. This guy is praised already for his bat speed, power, defensive range, etc., etc. Some people say he's the likely first-round pick. MajorLeagueBaseball.com says it. But then there are others, a lot of others say Grady Emerson is the guy, 18.4 years of age, 6'3", 185, left-handed stick, right-handed arm. And he's one of those guys that has maybe some intangibles that Rock Chalowski doesn't. Chalowski being a polished player, basically ready for Major League Baseball very, very soon, at least going into AA or better right out the gate. And so that may be a good situation because you think of the age of the White Sox with all the young kids, he may be able to fit right in with this core, so he may be a better selection overall. But then there's also the idea that where are you going to put this guy? You got Miguel Vargas at third, Colson Montgomery at short, Chase Mydroth at second, and Munetaka Murakami at first. Now, do you move Murakami, Colson Montgomery into platooning at first and alternating at designated hitter? That's one thing they could do. The problem is Murakami and Montgomery both hit maybe the 220s, 230s, 240s, whatever, something like that. Now, we don't know if you're going to get more than a 1 for 3 out of these guys, if you're even going to get 300 ever out of these guys. But what you will do is you're going to get a lot of productivity and home run power. So you got to have these two guys playing at the same time. So if you bring in maybe Rock Chalowski and he's ready to move at short very, very soon, well, you're going to have to get creative because I don't think the White Sox expected Sam Antonacci out there in left field to be that good, and he is that good. He's basically the guy that wears it every day, and I like Sam Antonacci's game. But you also have to think about Tristan Peters. Nobody expected Tristan Peters to do what he does, another rookie. I mean, look, you've got Braden Montgomery over in right, another rookie, and this guy, he worked his way up very quickly through Birmingham and through Charlotte, and this guy all the way at the start at Kannapolis. This guy is ready to go right away. But remember, he replaced Everson Pereira. And so that's the reason Montgomery got the slot anyway. And Peters, same thing. And Sam Antonacci simply took over for Austin Hayes, who's on the 60-day disabled list. And you have Randall Grichuk back there as a good backup to go play left field as well. I mean, look, there's a lot of depth on this White Sox team. So if you take a shortstop, what are you going to do with them? Because you've got Colson Montgomery, Luis Angel Acuna, Jacob Gonzalez, and Chase Mydroth that all can play short. Think about that one. At second base, Mydroth, Gonzalez, and Antonacci, and Luis Angel Acuna and Miguel Vargas could all play second base. You see the problem? Where is the depth the least? Well, yeah, arguably the catcher position. Kyle Teel, who came off the DL, long stint from the World Baseball Classic, and Drew Romo. So do you look and say, well, who is the best pick? Well, let's take a look. Because the third pick, or better yet, the third touted talent is Von Lackey, a catcher out of Georgia Tech. 21 years of age, 6'2", 215, right-handed bat and right-handed stick. And Von Lackey is a standout catcher with exceptional defensive skills, including quick exchanges, strong arm, lateral movement. Well, offensively, beginning to show a little bit of power, making him one of the top catching prospects. But remember, Kyle Teel is that piece you got in the Garrett Crochet deal, which is working out really well. So do you say we're going to scrap one of our catcher spots? I don't think so. Do you put him in the system? Maybe, but Von Lackey would be buried in the system for years in Chicago only because he would be sitting behind Kyle Teel, who is obviously a youngster, and then he'll also be sitting behind a very good catcher in Drew Romo. So Drew Romo, remember, he is a rookie as well. The White Sox have had 14 rookies play this year. And in the starting lineup, as it stands right now, you've got Braden Montgomery, Tristan Peters, Sam Antonacci, Chase Mydroth, Kyle Teel. You've got 5 rookies in a lineup. Braden Montgomery's only in his Colson Montgomery's only in his second year. Miguel Vargas is in about his 4th year, bouncing around from the Dodgers to the White Sox and so forth. And Murakami, well, technically he's a rookie as well. So you ask yourself, where is the room in this draft order? Or do the White Sox make a deal at the trade deadline or before the trade deadline with their draft pick and pick up a much needed starting pitcher or another position player that's ready to go today? Think about that, because they have the overall number 1 pick. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to deal it or are you going to trade? So you ask, well, what are the White Sox needs? Let's ask our favorite search engine. What do the White Sox need? Right? White Sox need. Okay. Today, what do they need in the lineup? In their lineup. Okay. Now, according to this search engine, I mean, look, I have theories like everybody else. So the White Sox, according to Copilot, they have a very good mix of pitchers and position players and so forth. But factors affecting lineup variations, according to them: pitching matchups, player availability, of course, for injuries. I mean, really, while exact total possibilities, who knows? But what do they need today? So even Copilot couldn't even give an idea. So what we'll do is now we'll go ahead and put trade deadline. Let's go White Sox trade deadline needs. How's that? All right. So according to that same source, primary needs is starting pitching, rotation help. So what do? Do you deal off the number 1 pick for I don't know if you can get a number 1. Maybe you can get a number 2. And that's the question. I mean, do they make a play for Tarek Skubal? And do you deal the number 1 pick within your division for Tarek Skubal? That's the bigger question. So if you look at pitchers that are available, available at deadline, at trade deadline. Okay, so what they say, according to that search engine that rhymes with noodle, Tarek Skubal is the number 1 guy. I like Freddie Peralta, and he's sitting over there dying with the Mets. And Freddie Peralta is a really, really good strikeout pitcher and he eats innings too. Now, he's only under contract through the end of the year, so it could be a cheaper alternative to pick him up because Tarek Skubal, well, let's face it, this guy's got $32 million left on the contract. And then there's Joe Ryan, who I really like Joe Ryan, but I don't know, again, if the Twinkies are going to make a trade right there within the division. And so what do you do when you have a loaded infield and a lot of young talent? You trade off some of the talent to get what? Now you become a buyer and you deal your number one pick off for maybe lower draft picks and a starting rotation number one or number two. Joe Ryan, I think Joe Ryan is a number one. Freddie Peralta is a number one. Tarek Skubal certainly is a number one. And we're going to continue on with this in just a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere.
Step right up! The show is about to start! With a heart of fire and a restless heart. With a smile painted fierce, he runs the whole game. Loudspeaker voice, calling out all the names. Lions roar and the audience calls. Sounds of berries can show no one falls. With a crack of the whip, he owns the floor. Life's a circus, baby, and he's wanting more. Hey, 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 this is Remaster Sal, bringing the thunder, raising the crowd in the heart of the circus. He's taking about sports in the wild. Mixing right now. Hey, 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 feel the roar of the crowd with the heartbeat of rock. He's making us proud under the lights with the fireworks and sound. Ringmaster Sal, he's the king of this town. Acrobat spinning, the flying so high. Trapeze in the air, he's spinning up to the sky. Glitter and sweat running through his veins. A juggler of dreams where thrill never wanes. From the roar of the game to the thrill of the show, he's got the spirit, he's the star of the glow. With athletes colliding, the passions collide. In the ring with Sal, there's nowhere to hide. Hey, this is Ringmaster Sal, bringing the thunder, raising the crowd in the heart of the circus. He's taking about sports in the wild, we're mixing right now. Yeah, feel the roar of the crowd with the heartbeat of rock. He's making us proud under the lights with the fireworks and sound. Ringmaster Sal, he's the king of this town. So step right up for the ride of your life. It's Ringmaster Sal, cutting through like a knife. Together we rise and together we fall. In the wild, wild circus where we give it our all.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com's store. Lots of great items, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, ball caps, beanie hats, sweatpants, sweat coats, travel mugs, coffee mugs, mouse pads, pillows, blankets, you name it, all with the clever Sports Circus logo on them. That's the store at thesportscircus.com. Make sure you check that out. Mention my name, Ringmaster Sal, for an extra 10% off your first purchase. All right, welcome back to everybody on our CBS NBC and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on television on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Watch Charter, CBS NBC Digital, and independent affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV, Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook, and everybody's streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer. Lots of great options out there. And in case you missed this episode, go back to any of those streaming pages. There's thousands of episodes for you to, of course, listen to, starting with this one here on Major League Baseball draft and trade rumors and where we stand with everything. Let's think about this. So we were talking about trade depth and making deals, or I should say team depth and making trades. See if I'm dyslexic today or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to figure out which one it is because honestly, right now, I'm not really sure. All right. But nonetheless, we were talking about the first overall pick belongs to the White Sox. They have a loaded infield, a lot of young talent on this team. Maybe it's best for them to make a deal because they do need starting pitching. They really need starting pitching. And so there are different options. Maybe a little bit of bullpen depth as well because they've got some issues, but I'm not really one of those guys that promote bullpen drafting. I don't like that idea. It's just, for me, it's just not one of those situations where you want to get into. I really think starting pitching is the grand picture for the White Sox, who sit a game above Cleveland. Now, of course, when you look at those trade rumors, you see what's out there. Well, who's willing to make deals? Who needs to make deals? Well, you know, the Yankees need to make a deal. I think the Phillies need to make a deal. I think Seattle needs to make a deal. Looking at these standings here, and you ask yourself, well, who is on the fringe of stuff? Who's on the fringe of making it? Let's just say in the divisions themselves. Texas Rangers sit only a game and a half behind Seattle, and Houston sits only 3 back of Seattle. And over the National League, obviously the White Sox are a game ahead. Tampa Bay is 3 ahead of the Yankees. Over the National League, it's the Braves just hanging on. Philadelphia is putting a big hard charge on. But how about Miami? Maybe Miami, who sits 4 back, 7 over 500. Maybe Miami makes a deal, and the Cubs are going to be looking for starting pitching. You could bet your ass they're going to. And as far as Arizona, San Diego, and San Francisco, and Colorado, I think they're all going to be sellers. Maybe Arizona, but the problem is they're only playing 500 ball. And if you look at the wild card standings as it stands over the National League, let's face it, you have the Cubs, the Phillies, and the Marlins in the driver's seat. And those that are right there, St. Louis, surprising St. Louis Cardinals, a half a game out of the last spot. The Nats, Washington, 2.5 out. And the Pirates are sticking around at 3, and Arizona 3.5. We're going to kind of draw the line there. So all of those teams could be buying. And of course, the American League wild card, you've got the Yankees and Cleveland, and the Rangers have the last spot. But Houston is only 1.5 back, along with the Twins. And the Blue Jays 3.5, the Orioles 3.5. I say Sacramento, soon to be Vegas, they're 4 back, and the Red Sox are 4 back. So maybe a little bit of desperation there. We don't know, but let's go back to this. Who's looking for Skubal? Well, I would argue most of the teams on the list. But do the Tigers make a deal in their own division? I don't think so. They could. If they were smart, they probably would, and potentially ask for that number 1 draft pick from the White Sox, which may make a little bit of sense. You never know. So when you look at the Skubal sweepstakes, well, I mean, look, any contender with the right prospects and of course, the White Sox with the number 1 pick and space to take on that $15 million salary at the end of the deal, they're going to have to come up with that one. That's going to be a big deal. And so looking at the draft order, so it's the Tampa Bay Rays. They are selecting 2nd in the Major League Baseball draft. The Twins selecting 3rd, the Giants 4th, the Pirates 5th, the Royals 6th, Baltimore 7, the Athletics 8, the Atlanta Braves 9, and the Rockies 10. So the White Sox and Rays are both in first place, and they're drafting 1 and 2. The Twins sit a game and a half out of the wild card. San Francisco, they're done for the year. Pittsburgh is still in the fix. So what are they looking for? I don't know. Look, you can't go team by team by team. We don't have enough time for that. But we do know that there's going to be sweepstakes for Skubal. And frankly, I would not be in on the Skubal sweepstakes. I would be more looking at Peralta because he doesn't have that new injury issue that kept Skubal on the shelf for quite a while, just this season. So the bigger question is, what's Perry Manassian going to do with the Angels? He's got some pieces over there. And I don't know. I look at it this way. The Angels have a chance. I will strike that. I guess Perry's gone now. Perry is gone, which is too bad because Perry got the short end of the stick on that one. But the question is, what's going to happen over there? Are they going to have a mass sell-off over there? You can't blame Perry for the terrible moves that Artie Moreno basically moves internally. I think Artie is the worst owner in Major League Baseball. But nonetheless, think about the Yankees for a second. They've got a clear need for that lefty. So Rodon joining Max Fried on the injured list for a long time. We don't know what's going to happen there. The Yankees need some real help in starting pitching. So they're going to be out there in the grand scheme of things when it comes to making deals. They need to be out there making deals. So the bigger question is, where's Skubal going to go? I mean, I don't really know what's going to happen. It doesn't matter whether he had one good start or stuff like that. At the end of the day, this guy's going to have to be strong all the way through. And so never mind the Skubal sweepstakes. Me personally, I'm looking at some of the other squads and saying, well, where are we going to see guys like Blake Snell and Framber Valdez? And what's going to happen with some of these guys? Are there going to be moves made? They're going to have to be moves. What about Seattle? Look, Seattle, they've got a need for they need a left-handed stick for sure. They've really struggled against left-handed pitchers as well, despite having J-Rod and Arozarena. Bullpen depth, they've got injuries. Rotation flexibility, yeah, there's a little bit of that. But really, I think what Seattle's looking for maybe could be Matt Vierling from Detroit, or even Taylor Ward from the Orioles, who has experience playing in that American League West when he was with the Angels. And Seiya Suzuki, who is another guy from the Yomiuri Giants, not the one that plays on the Chicago Cubs. So there are some guys out there. And the bigger question is, what's Terry Pito really going to do? Is it going to be buyer-to-buyer trades? Is it going to be one of those kind of things? I mean, outfield depth and rotation is really what their needs are. So do they use side deals? I don't know. Maybe that's the case. What about Cleveland? Cleveland and the White Sox are in a dogfight back and forth. They've played 7 games, and they're only separated literally by, 2 runs? That's it. In Cleveland, they really have a problem scoring runs. They're really at the bottom of the American League in runs scored, home run, slugging percentage, and they just don't score. I mean, they rely on pitching and defense, but at some point, you got to cross home plate. So what do they really need? Maybe a right-handed stick. That makes a little bit of sense because right now they're pretty weak against lefty pitching. So remember, Jose Ramirez, switch hitter, he's on the shelf. Angel Martinez on the shelf as well. So things are not looking real good for Cleveland, but they will be getting their guys back. So the bigger question is, who are they going to target? Maybe Christian Walker from Houston. He's one of those older guys that still has a lot of value out there. Or maybe even a guy like Curtis Mead from Washington, but I don't think Washington's going to be selling. I don't think so at all. I mean, think about what Cleveland really needs. So, look, the analysts stress Cleveland should avoid not making an impactful move and instead acquiring reliable, high upside bats and possibly a bullpen piece. I don't know. They need a bullpen piece. The farm system is pretty darn strong. They've got plenty there. Maybe going after a designated hitter or first baseman gives them a little bit more latitude. Now, that would make a little bit more sense for Cleveland. Now, as we look at the pitchers available, again, in Major League Baseball, probably trade deadline, Freddie Peralta, in my opinion, and Joe Ryan are the 2 top targets, but I don't believe that Joe Ryan's going to be available because Minnesota's sitting a game and a half out of the last spot. So Freddie Peralta should be the target. And also Reed Detmers, the lefty from the Angels, a very good lefty, terribly underrated. He should be one of those coveted guys, and I'd like to see Reed Detmers end up with a team where he actually gets a chance to have a little bit of offensive support. I think Reed Detmers would be a really good fit on the north side of Chicago. Seth Lugo's out there as well, and the guy's been doing it for a long time, and he's steady Eddie. Merrill Kelly's also out there as well, and that guy eats innings. I like Merrill Kelly. Logan Webb, could the Giants make him available? If so, it's going to be a real big price to pay, and maybe the White Sox and Giants make a deal there. Logan Webb would be one hell of an acquisition for the White Sox. And then you have the old-timer Michael Wacha, who still gets guys out. He induces ground balls, and he's awfully good. And then, of course, there's Soriano from the Angels. And, again, he's one of those high strike swing rate guys, and he makes a lot of guys swing and miss. So the bigger question is, who are the big gets out of this pitching core? I would say Freddie Peralta. I would say Joe Ryan. I don't think he's going to be available, but I do believe Logan Webb and Merrill Kelly. So I would probably put Webb, then Freddie, and then Merrill Kelly in that order on pitching targets, because I don't believe Ryan is going to be available, and Skubal's going to likely go to the Yankees or something like that. He's going to go out of division. In fact, he may even go to the National League. And who could use him in the National League? Well, a heavy dose of reality says possibly the Phillies. The Phillies are probably the best landing spot, or the Cubs, for Tarik Skubal. And that's how I see that one. But then again, that's just me, and what do I know? At the end of the day, these teams are going to have to make some moves, and the draft order is a big deal. But the White Sox, with that first pick, they could deal that first pick for a guy like Logan Webb, and watch and see if that doesn't happen. You heard it here first on the Sports Circus today. I believe the White Sox make a deal. They deal off the first pick. They take back a great starting pitcher, and that's how it's going to happen. All right, that's going to do it for the circus today. Of course, I'm your Ringmaster Sal. Make sure you tune in. In case you missed any of this episode, make sure you tune in at one of our streaming sites so you can pick up all of our shows, including this one, and we'll see you in 23 hours right back here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Doompa-dee-doo, I've got another puzzle for you.
Yes!
Wow.
Excellent. Stop it!
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.